Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to talk about my most anticipated February new releases. So these are all romances, by the way. And as always with these videos, I'm going to talk about a lot of new releases here, and February especially has a lot of new releases. They're not necessarily all romances that I'm interested in reading, it's just to put them on your radar. Once again, I do have to say in February, a lot of these romances I'm also very much looking forward to, so that's exciting. I will mention which ones I am excited about. This is, as always, split into two categories. The first one is the biggest one, and it's either first books in series, standalones, or like a sequel, but it's interconnected standalones. And then the last category will be direct sequels, where if you're interested in a sequel, then I'm assuming you'll have read the first book, so I won't mention a lot because it will, it's a direct sequel, so it will spoil the first book. 9 out of 10 times I haven't read the first book. Once again, I just think you will only be interested in the books in that category if you actually read the first book. In its respective category, I will talk about the books in order of publication date. And yeah, let's get started. The first books come out on February 4th, and it's a lot of books. It's 9 books, so let's talk about them. The first one, of course, is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is one I'm very much looking forward to. I'm going to be doing a new releases vlog for this book, so look forward to that. This one, like I said, comes out on February 4th, and it is a competitive diver and an ace swimmer. And this is a forbidden romance and a sports romance, which is, I believe, Ali's first sports romance if we don't count her young adult chess romance. So these two start an arrangement where they will be like friends with benefits to help relieve the stress while they're working their way to the Olympics. The last time, like her last book she published that was kind of similar, I didn't really love. Not in Love was not my favorite book, but I'm hoping I'll love this one. The next one is Unloved by Peyton Corinne. And this one also comes out on February 4th. And this is the second book in the Undone series, the first book being Unsteady. And Unsteady, a lot of people really loved last year, so I'm very much interested in this one. This is another sports romance. This time it's a hockey romance. This sounds tailor-made for me because it's an athlete tutor romance, and that is my catnip. I love those romances. First of all, The Deal by Elle Kennedy, but what really made me love this trope is One Tree Hill and Nayely. It's just my favorite thing. So you follow Matt. He's a hockey player with a potential future in the NHL, but he is not doing so well at school, mainly because he's struggling with a mix of dyslexia, dyscalculia, and ADHD. And now his father has put a clause in his inheritance, meaning that he has to graduate. Like he has a graduation clause in his inheritance, so he needs to get his GPA up. And now Ro will be his new tutor. So she keeps telling herself that she is happy with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, but she's really looking for real affection. And her tutoring sessions lead to friendship and then late night phone calls. And eventually it's going to be their romance. And apparently they had this past where they had a kiss together and he doesn't seem to remember, but she does. This sounds amazing. But I do think I want to read Unsteady first. But then after that, I'm gonna read Unloved as soon as I can. Moving on to The Love Lyric by Christina Forrest. This is the third and final book in the Green Sisters series, the first book being The Neighbor Favor, which I read and really enjoyed. And this is a trilogy following different sisters getting their romance. And this time you follow Iris. This is the single mother of the three. So she's also a widow. So she found the love of her life, got married, got pregnant, and then became a widow, all in the span of a year and a half. So she's been living her life. Her daughter is now 6, and she's pretty busy because she is the director of partnerships at a beauty company. And at her sister's wedding, she meets this R&B singer, Angel Harrison. And he apparently has had a crush on her for years, because she is his stylist sister. So I haven't read the second book yet, but I believe it's tied to that one. But they're working on this campaign together and lines cannot get blurred. This sounds amazing. So I have not read the second book yet, but out of the two, I'm more looking forward to this one. So very excited. What I love is that they're also different, because the first book is definitely like these book lovers falling in love, and then this is like an R&B singer, and then in the second book, so she's a stylist, and it's a get married in Vegas story. Moving on to another sports romance, Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey. This is the third book in her Big Shot series, the first book being Fangirl Down. And this time the sport is another hockey player. So the first book was golf, and then the second and third are hockey players. I don't know if this is for me necessarily because it deals with a manic pixie dream girl, and I tend to not really love those stories. So you follow professional hockey player Sig, and when his phone dies, he treks to this posh private country club where he encounters the alluring Chloe Clifford, the manic pixie dream girl, who captivates him immediately with her sense of adventure and penchant for stealing champagne. But then, so they have a kiss together, and then they find out that their parents are engaged. So this is a step-sibling romance, but of course, they didn't grow up together. She is a harp prodigy, but she hasn't really been doing it since her mother is so controlling. And I don't know, this deals with socialized. So first, I tend to not really love those, but I did really love, what's that book called? Her most famous one. It Happened One Summer. But I think I like that one because it didn't take place at this high society place. It took place in this like small fishing village, but we'll see. The next book is The Beast We Bury by D.L. Taylor. This is a new young adult romantasy. I don't know if it's going to be a series. For now, it doesn't list it as a series, but I already really love the cover. I love this color purple. And it's also a snake or something, I just realized. Anyway. Okay, so this is an interesting one because it deals with the heir to the throne and a thief who plans to manipulate her to plan a once-in-a-lifetime heist. So you follow Mancella, I don't know. And she's daughter and heir to the throne. And she, as a child, she realized that her power is to summon animals, but she has to kill them first. And her father has been brutally training her ever since she was a child. And you follow Silver, who's a charming thief, and he has to survive in this world that her father created, and it's not a good one. The series benefactor hires him to pull off this heist to rob the castle, and in order to get in, he has to charm the heir to the throne. He has to manipulate her, and of course he's gonna fall in love, so at the end he has to decide between his ambition and the girl he's falling for. This sounds great. I really want to read more romantasies, but I really want to also focus on YA romantasy because I do think they're done very well. Like, I recently read Crimson Crown. Wait, is it called that? Or Heartless Hunter or The Crimson Moth. So that's the same book but different titles. I really enjoyed that, and that is most certainly a young adult romantasy. So I am keeping my eye on these new romantasies, and most certainly young adult romantasies. Speaking of, the next one I want to talk about is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payne Smith. All of these are still coming out on February 4th, by the way. So this one is being compared to The Cruel Prince and The Selection, which right away I'm like, So I haven't read The Selection yet, but any book remotely compared to some sort of reality TV show, I myself am kind of apprehensive about, but I haven't read that series. So this is the first book in a duology. Okay, so basically in this world, every citizen of England is granted one bargain from their immortal Fey Queen, which all right away I'm like, why bring England into this? But anyway, I don't know if this is like a portal fantasy or whatever. And high society girls are expected to bargain for qualities that will win them a suitor. So for example, a perfect smile or whatever. And Ivy Benton's debut season arrives with a shocking twist, a competition to secure the heart of the Queen Fae's son, Prince Bram. And it could save her family from ruin, but in turn it could ruin her. I don't know if this is for me necessarily. I think I'm gonna just wait around and see what if there's gonna be any hype for it. So we'll see. Another young adult fantasy romance is Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft, which she's pretty popular, right? Let me see. Oh yeah. Yeah, she had a book that came out last year, Fragile Enchantment, that had the most beautiful cover, and this one I also really enjoy, like the cover. So this is for sure gonna... Sorry. So this is for sure gonna be a standalone fantasy. Okay, so I think this is somehow tied to her other books because at the end of the synopsis it says, discover the origin of the sweeping star-crossed romance between the Queen of Pixie Hollow and the Lord of the Winterwood. So basically, you follow Pixie Hollow, you follow Clarion, who is gonna be the queen of Pixie Hollow, but she wants to prove that she is worthy of that title. So she goes, when she hears reports of a monster crossing from winter into spring, she sees defeating that monster as an opportunity to prove that she's worthy of her new role. But instead she finds Mallory, a young guardian of the Winter Woods, and together they form an unlikely bond as they race to save their lands. And of course they fall in love, but they discover that there's a reason a warm season fairy and a winter fairy must not be together, and the cost could be just as deadly as the monsters that prowl the Winter Woods. So this screams prequel to something else she wrote, but I haven't read anything by her, so I wouldn't know. It does sound very like enchanting. Okay, so this is another fantasy romance, young adult, and it's the start of a duology, and this is a Latin-inspired fantasy romance, I'm pretty sure. So this is a pirate fantasy romance. So you follow Ximena, and she has spent most of her time training to become a cazador, a seafaring hunter who tracks down pirates, but her future is uncertain since her parents were traders and they were executed when she and her little sister were young, and therefore they permanently ruined their reputation, basically. So ability alone won't earn her the cazador cloak. So when the legendary pirate returns and captures the Empire's queen, she offers to bring her back and capture the pirate in exchange for that cloak. But there is a catch. There's only one cloak, and Ximena's competition is Dante, infuriating yet handsome classmate. So they set out to find the queen, but of course they're gonna fall in love in the meantime. I like these kind of stories, and I haven't read a pirate romance in a while, or pirate adjacent. And the last one that comes out on February 4th is A Tropical Rebel Gets the Duke by Adriana Herrera, and this is the third book in the Las Leonas series by her, the first book being a Caribbean Heiress in Paris. So I read the second book, An Island Princess Starts a Scandal, and I didn't really love it. I DNF'd it. So we'll have to see about this one. This is very much different, like as far as cover, than the other two. So this takes place in Paris in 1889, and you follow Aurora, who is a physician, and she runs an underground women's clinic. And then help arrives in the form of infuriating Duke of Annan, and she begrudgingly accepts his protection and then promptly finds herself in his bed, and he needs to find a duchess, and he thinks that his bedmaid would be the perfect duchess, but she doesn't want to give up her independence. So he whisks her away to his villa in the French Riviera. He is gonna try and convince her that they can make it work. It sounds cute, so hopefully I can get to this one, and hopefully I'll love it a little bit more than the second book. Now for the books that come out on February 11th. The first book, of course, is Sight and Sparrow by Brynne Weaver. This is the third and final book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. The first book, of course, being Butcher and Blackbird, and this is the long-awaited Fionn and Rose book. So they were introduced in the first book, and there was always something about them, but it was never really clear what, and this is their romance. So it's a circle motorcycle performer Rose and a lonely small-town doctor Fionn. All these brothers are Irish, and I really love the audiobook. I really like the accent, so I'm gonna definitely read it and listen to the audiobook. Next is A Rebel Without Claws by Juliet Cross, and this is the next gen series to her Stay a Spell series. So this is basically their kids. And the first book, you follow Evie and Mateo's daughter. She's a half witch, half werewolf, but it seems like her witch, like she's more witch than werewolf as far as like her abilities are concerned. And she meets this bad boy werewolf, Ronan Reed. So he thinks that she's a good girl, but little does he know that she wants to do wicked things with the bad boy werewolf. And apparently it's a forbidden romance, and there's some sort of danger going on that will inevitably lead to danger for Celine. I'm excited about it. I really love the Stay Spell series, especially the werewolf romances. And I am a werewolf simp in general, so very much looking forward to this one. First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. Okay, so you follow Aidan Valentine, and he has a problem. He's falling out of love with love, but that's a problem considering he's the host of Baltimore's romance hotline. And then a young girl calls to ask for dating advice for her mom. The interview goes viral. It thrusts him and the radio station into the limelight. And Lucy Stone thought she was doing just fine, but then her daughter is the one that calls the hotline. And now all of a sudden her romantic life, or lack thereof, is being scrutinized. They get connected and it's gonna be their romance. And this sounds adorable. I haven't read a BK Borison yet. I really want to read the Love Life Farms series soon. It has been on many a TBR, so I really should get around to it. But maybe I can start with her new series, I guess. So far, the early reviews have been great, so cannot wait. The Forest King's Daughter by Ellie Blake. This sounds so good. It really reminds me of one of the books in the Immortals After Dark series, one of my favorites in that series, Dark Sky. So basically, this is a childhood friends to enemies to lovers, which I don't know why, that is my catnip. I eat that shit up. I just love the idea of hating someone, but also having like these innocent childhood memories. So once upon a time, among the blood red trees of Thirstwood, a young forest princess became friends with a lonely demon boy. And he gifted her an amber ring, a worthless trinket, or so he thought. Because no sooner did he slide it onto her finger that the demon queen and the forest king declared war. And now, years later, Cassia, the princess, is a crucial force in her father's army, wielding her ring of light that can blind and disorient hundreds of demons at a time. Then battle-hardened Zeru abducts her, planning to steal the ring back to fix his costly childhood mistake. So now she's forced to travel with him, where their childhood friendship slowly rekindles into something much more. But of course, there's still a war going on between their species. And this sounds so good. Like, this is everything I could ever want and more. Like, I want to read this book as soon as it's in my hands. The cover is beautiful, so I really want to read this very soon. It sounds so good. Can't Help Faking in Love by Swati Hegde. So a young woman with Bollywood roots hires a barista to act as her boyfriend for her cousin's wedding, only to learn you can't fake chemistry like theirs. She asks her favorite barista to be her fake date, and he agrees because he thinks it might give him the break he needs to make it big in Bollywood. And of course, they're gonna fall in love. I really love a fake dating story. It's always so good. I really love the cover too. Next, the books that come out on February 18th. The first book is I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com by Kimberly Lemming. So Kimberly Lemming has these humorous titles, and I've heard amazing things about her books. They all sound so very funny. The first book was more, like her first series was more fantasy / paranormal romance. This is definitely a sci-fi alien romance. And I'm pretty sure the title says it all. So Dorothy Valentine is close to getting her PhD in wildlife biology when she's attacked by a lion. On the bright side, she's saved. On the not so bright side, it's because they're abducted by aliens. She eventually becomes friends with this lion, and she meets these aliens, Locke and Zoc. Oh no, Saul and Locke. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if this synopsis would have intrigued me if it wasn't for like everything I've already heard about this author. So, and this title alone makes me chuckle. Last Guy on Earth by Serena Bowen. So Goodreads doesn't have a synopsis for me, so let me check on her Instagram. So all I know is this is a hockey romance, and it's an MM romance about Jethro and Clay. It doesn't really give me anything more than that, but I haven't read a Serena. Well, I read a book that she co-authored with Elle Kennedy, but I haven't read a book that she wrote on her own. This is the third book in a series, the Hockey Guy series, the first book being The New Guy, and I'm pretty sure this is tied to her Brooklyn Bruiser series, which I also haven't read. Never Planned on You by Lindsay Hammeroff. So this is an interesting book because you follow Allie, and she used to be when she was younger, she made this drunken bet that ended up with matching tattoos with a stranger. And sometimes she finds herself thinking about that night and wondering what happened to that guy she got a tattoo with. She used to be a chef in New York, but now she's a wedding planner in Baltimore. And she is surprised when she sees that guy again, and his name is Graham. And then she's even more surprised when she finds out that she's going to be the wedding planner for his wedding. Eventually, she finds out that it's actually a marriage of convenience between him and his fiancée, so of course sparks rekindle. This sounds like it could be amazing, or it could be a shit show, so we'll see. The Girl Most Likely To by Julie Cho. So you follow Rachel and Danny, and when they were in high school, She was the girl most likely to succeed. So she was very dedicated to her studies and very serious. Therefore, she was always paired with Danny, who was smart but unfocused. So teachers often paired them together. And they had they connected usually through IM texts, but in real life, they never really got along. And now he invites her to their 20-year high school reunion. And now the tables have turned. He's the one with a successful career while she's the one that's kind of flailing. And this book takes place over the course of an evening, it seems like, where they are at their high school reunion, but also a simple errand takes them into town for a night of mishaps and misadventures, where they run into a colorful cast of characters from their childhood. I haven't really read anything like this, so we'll see. And the last one that comes out on February 18th is Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess. This is the first book in a new series. And this is a fantasy, like an adult fantasy romance this time. So you follow Queen Saskia, and she's the wicked sorceress everyone fears. After successfully wresting the throne from her evil uncle, she only wants one thing: to keep her people safe from the empire next door. So she spends her time experimenting with spells, and then a mysterious dark wizard arrives at her castle, and she hires him as her new librarian on the spot. And he seems sweet and a little nerdy, but little does she know, he's actually an imperial archduke in disguise with no magical training whatsoever. So already the synopsis kind of confuses me because on the one hand, they're both described as evil, but then on the other hand, they're kind of sweet. I don't know. This is the first books in the Queens of Villainy series. And it seems like this is going to be a series with interconnected standalones, it seems like. Now for the books that come out on February 20th. The first one is By the Letter by Julia Wolf. And this is the second book in the Mile High Billionaire series by her. The first book is In the Details. Okay, so this sounds like a hot mess, but I'm interested. I've heard amazing things about Julia Wolf, especially from Jen over at the Book Refuge. So she wanted one thing: a hot night with an anonymous masked man, and she got it. But it turns out that he's the new investor in her struggling business. So when she realizes who he is, it becomes awkward. And then he makes a ruthless business move that leaves her reeling. And then she finds out that she's actually pregnant. So that one hot night they got together left her pregnant. She doesn't know if she can trust him because of the things he does in business, the thing he did that left her reeling. But he wants to be part of her baby's life, and now her cat is trusting him, and he's bringing her breakfast every morning. Eventually going to be their romance, so very interested about this one. On Love Rose Lane by Samantha Young. This is the first book in her Return to Dublin Street series. So it seems like this is a next-gen series. So On Dublin Street was a very popular series years and years and years ago. Let me actually see when that book came out. 2012. Yeah, so it seems like now that she's getting a resurgence, she's because she did the Highland series, the Adair family series, and now she's returning back to the Dublin series. So this is a fake dating sports romance, and it seems like neighbor romance. So Beth Carmichael, her new neighbor, turns out to be one of Scotland's most famous and hottest professional footballers, Callan. And apparently he's holding a grudge for something that happened years ago. She needs him for a huge client opportunity, which requires them to fake date, and he needs her to facilitate a meeting with her dad to further his own business interests. So they decide to fake date, but of course, there's blazing chemistry. Sports romance, football at that, or soccer for the Americans watching. It's a fake dating, neighbor romance, grump sunshine, say less. It sounds like everything I want. And a Scottish guy, so hopefully I can get the audiobook. Next is When We Burn by Kristen Proby. This is the first book in the Blackwells of Montana series. So this is about Bridger and Danny. And when they were younger, she turned to him as a safe place from her brutal father. But she was always off limits because he was very much older than her. He was her brother's best friend. And she really needed a safe harbor and not some older guy to pursue her, basically. She eventually left the village and he got married, had a baby, but now she's returned and now he's a single dad taking care of his daughter who has a mysterious illness. And she's back and she's no longer off limits. So it's their romance, and he's a single dad, of course, and she still needs to deal with. So she returns after her father actually passes away. So she has to deal with the trauma of her childhood for them to actually make it work. It sounds great, and a great small town romance at that. This one comes out on February 20th, by the way. I don't know if I said that. By the Letter and On Love Rose Lane and When We Burn all come out on February 20th. And the last one that also comes out on February 20th is The Broker by Nikki Sloan. This one was supposed to come out in January, so I already talked about it in my January most anticipated releases, but this is the 6th book in her Nashville Neighborhood series, and these are all like smutty romances in this neighborhood. And this is a father's co-worker, I guess. So she's his boss's daughter and very much older than her. And I have loved, I really loved The Frat Boy that I read, and The Doctor was fine, and I still need to read the other ones. But I do really like her writing style. And now there's the last three before I get to the direct sequels all come out on February 25th. The first one is The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy. This is the third and I believe the final book in the Campus Diaries. The first book being The Graham Effect. And only The Graham Effect really is a next-gen series for the off-campus series, but this is an MMF between Charlotte, who is a perfect sorority girl, a STEM student in biomedical engineering, and at night she's Charlie, a risk-taking daredevil looking for fun who finds herself chatting on a dating app with two anonymous hotties. And you follow Will, who may seem like the breezy boy next door, but his congressman father is a constant thorn in his side. And because of a scandal involving his dad, he needs to be on the up and up. So nobody can know that he sometimes shares girls with his best friend, Beckett Dunn. And eventually they meet and have this steamy hot night together, and feelings get involved. And it sounds great. I still need to finish the off-campus series. Then I really want to finish The Briar U, and then I can get to this one. So it's going to be a while before I read this particular book. Next is Wicked Pursuit by Katie Robert. I believe this is the next gen series to her Wicked Villain series, and this is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. It doesn't really give me anything, the synopsis, but I assume if you really love Katie Robert, this book is already on your radar. And I still need to finish the Wicked Villains before getting to this one. And the last one is The Book Boyfriend by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. Okay, so this sounds interesting. So this is about Jennifer and Scott, and they work together, and he kind of makes fun of her obsession with this Elysium Court, sounds like a Court of Thorns and Roses series, basically. So the men are brave, chivalrous, and winged. And she goes to this fan convention, and the last person she expects there is Scott, and he's actually cosplaying. So since he's unlucky in romance, he is inspired by her love for the swoon-worthy men in Elysium, so he's determined to remake himself in the perfect book boyfriend, and she is reluctant to help him, but of course she does, and it's gonna be that romance. This could be either really bad or really good, so we'll see. Now for the two books that are direct sequels. The first one is, of course, Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This is the sequel to The Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter. I really loved that book. I read it in January, so even though it hasn't been that long, I've been eagerly anticipating the sequel. And this one comes out on February 18th. And the last book is Throne of Ice and Blood by Marion Blackwood. And this is the sequel to Empire of Flame and Thorns. And this one comes out on February 24th. So I feel like I've been talking for a long time and I still need to film 2 other videos. So I'm gonna stop now. These are all the books that are coming out in February. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you're interested in any of them. Or let me know if I missed some big new releases that you're very much looking forward to. Leave all that in the comments below. And if you're down there, leave me either a rose emoji or any kind of flower emoji or a heart emoji for Valentine's Day. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.